Giuliani stated that the trials exposed the Westies as the most savage organization in the long history of New York City gangs. Hey, how you doing? It's me again, another nobody, Travis Myers. And today we're going to talk whiskey. I know most of you think of me as an all-American patriotic type guy, and you are right. But when it comes to whiskey and drinking whiskey, which I do, I always go for the Irish stuff. And my choice when it comes to the Irish stuff is Powers Irish Whiskey. Established back in 1791, it's a triple distilled, oak-aged whiskey. Powers is simply magic. It also happens to be the #1 selling whiskey in Ireland, which has got to say something, because if it's good enough for the Irish, it's good enough for you. So the next time you raise a glass, fill it with Powers, and think of me, another nobody, Travis Myers. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Another Nobody podcast with me, your favorite nobody, Travis Myers. Today all you got is me. And today, I'm going to tell you the story of the notorious New York City gang known as the Westies, who reigned over the predominantly Irish neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen during the 1970s and 1980s. This truly, just absolutely bunch of ruthless criminals who never really numbered more than 12 to 20 members at any one time, did cast a very, very large shadow not only over their own neighborhood, but really over the entire city as a whole, for about a 20-year run. Now, oftentimes, when I'm talking about New York City in the 70s or the 80s, people will often ask me what I know about the Westies, and were they really as dangerous as people say they were? Some people ask me did I ever know any of them personally, and so on. So I thought today I'd cover them during this week's episode. So that's what we're going to talk about. There we go. Okay, no, I did not know any of the Westies personally, as I predominantly grew up in the Yorkville section of Manhattan and not in Hell's Kitchen, which was on the other side of town. But that being said, there were many connections between both neighborhoods, okay? As both had very strong Irish communities, and many families from my neighborhood of Yorkville had relatives who lived in Hell's Kitchen, and of course, vice versa. In fact, Kenny Shannon, who was one of the younger members of the Westies, and he is, I want to say he's about 10 years older than me, lived just 2 doors down from Fresca's Pizzeria on 83rd Street and 1st Avenue, where all us 84th Street guys used to hang. And supposedly owned or had part ownership in a pub on 84th Street, possibly the Shamrock or even Schubert Hall, which is now called the Trinity Pub. But this I don't know to be true, so don't take my word for it. All right? I also remember a story about him and another Westie, either his usual partner, Kevin Kelly, or possibly even Jimmy Coonan, dragging a drug dealer named Coco out of the comic strip comedy club on 2nd Avenue and 81st Street. A place that my good friend Lutzy bartended at during that time, and the two of them gave this guy a terrible beating on the sidewalk, then forced him into the back of a car where the beating continued either for not paying a debt or for selling drugs in locations and bars that were overseen by the Westies. All right? Again, I'm not sure on all the details. I'm just sharing with you the story that I heard back in the day. But let me follow up with the fact that T.J. English relays a very similar story in his book, The Westies, which is a must-read for any New York City history or crime buff alike. And there he writes that in the 1988 court documents, a severe beating and humiliation of an unarmed victim that resembles this story was testified to by gang turncoat Mickey Featherstone. Also, when my brother Henry and our neighborhood friend and former 84th Street bomber George all worked at the Baja Club on Columbus Avenue way back in the 80s, it was often frequented by many characters from Hell's Kitchen, including one of James, Jimmy McElroy's sons, nephews, or hangers-on, I'm not sure what the relation was, who used to come in on a regular basis. His name actually was Jimmy McElroy too, if I'm not mistaken. And Jimmy Mac was himself was at least 20 years older than we were. So, with all that being said, the answer is no. I had no personal connection to any of the Westies whatsoever, other than a passing knowledge of who Kenny Shannon was and was rumored to be. And I, again, was, 20 years younger than these guys, all right? We also lived on the east side, where they tended not to, or at least rarely operated. During the beginning of their end, I was already off in the Army, jumping out of airplanes with my brother Henry. As far as them being dangerous, as they were rumored to be, the answer is absolutely yes. The Westies, a mostly all-Irish gang, who were born out of poverty in the infamous Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of New York City, which ran from 34th Street to 59th Street and from the Hudson River over to 8th Avenue. This neighborhood, or the moniker Hell's Kitchen, supposedly got its name back in the 1870s when a reporter overheard a young police officer tell a senior officer and or supervisor during one of the riotous gang fights that would often occur there, "This place is hell." And the senior officer's reply was, "No, son. Hell has a milder climate. This place is Hell's Kitchen." Hell's Kitchen, now named Clinton by realtors trying to rent apartments to newer, wealthier urban professionals, had always had a large gang population. And, for the most part, had always been predominantly Irish, as the tenements that line the streets were built for the working poor, who worked as stevedores on the docks, the once thriving tanneries, in the meatpacking district, and all around the garment center, which was all neighboring communities of Hell's Kitchen. Where the working poor would not only be exploited by the wealthy business owners, but also by the tougher, more nefarious underbelly of the neighborhood, the gangsta. Gangs like the Hell's Kitchen Gang, the Gophers, the Parlor Mob, the West Side Cowboys, the Arsenal Gang were just a few of the dozens and dozens of gangs that ruled the area for over 100 years before the Westies made the scene in the 1970s. Crime and violence was just about part of most everyone's life in that neighborhood at the time. And even though the vast majority of the neighborhood was made up of law-abiding citizens, the fact that unbridled poverty, an overworked and undermanned police precinct, and really an uncaring city hall made for an environment that was just, it was ripe for crime. All right, just ripe for crime, which inevitably became a thread that ran through everyone's life, whether they wanted to or not. Crime, violence, and fear were simply everywhere and, completely unavoidable. And here was born Jimmy Coonan, a product of these streets, okay? He was born and bred in Hell's Kitchen. Coonan first made a name for himself in the neighborhood as a small, scrappy young teen when he, at the age of 15, attempted to gun down a neighborhood bully named Willie McCarthy on West 46th Street, an act that got him sent to reform school until he was 17. Upon return to the neighborhood, he was known as just a petty thief, and the local bars knew him as a fighter, you know, and I guess a problem child, you would say. In 1966, a case of mistaken identity caused him to murder a random stranger in a telephone booth that he mistook for one of his neighborhood rivals. He was convicted of manslaughter, returning to the neighborhood not until 1971, when he was 25 years of age. At this time, this fellow wasted no time at all and began forming the gang that would come to be known worldwide as the Westies. Jimmy decided somewhere along the line that he, Jimmy Coonan, would become the new boss of the neighborhood and set upon to dethrone the current head of the Hell's Kitchen rackets, a fellow named Mickey Spillane. Now, unlike the murderous, bloodthirsty thugs who followed him, Spillane was known for his sharp dress, charismatic, diplomatic style, and operated throughout the neighborhood, you know, more as a political figure than as the gangster he was. Spillane even married Maureen McManus, whose family ran the Midtown Democratic Club, tying himself into the powerful political family, which gave him more political power, influence, protection within the Democratic Party. In 1973, Jimmy Coonan orchestrated the kidnapping and torture of bookie Patty Dugan, forcing him to name names and give locations to all of Spillane's different rackets that ran all up and down the west side, before killing him and dumping his body in the Hudson River. Then, for the next 3 to 4 years, committed numerous bombings at bars, nightclubs, homes, cars, apartments. He just rocked the city, all right? He rocked the city, killing and maiming at least 30 of Spillane's associates, along with the shooting of at least 9 other lieutenants and soldiers, this leaving Spillane's gang just absolutely decimated. And on May 13th, 1977, at the age of 43, in front of one of his homes in Queens, New York, Mickey Spillane's reign came to an end when 5 .38 caliber bullets ripped through his body, taking his life. 2 of them hitting him in the head and 3 in the chest. It's believed that this hit was done by the rogue independent hitman Joe Mad Dog Sullivan, and that mob associate Roy DeMeo was the wheelman. This hit was put together by Jimmy Coonan and done so to seize full control of Hell's Kitchen, and it was carried out by Roy DeMeo, a vicious murderer and Gambino family associate. The hit was most likely approved by Paul Castellano, who was the Gambino boss at the time, who was very unhappy with the grip that Spillane had on Hell's Kitchen, its docks, and the new Jacob Javits Center. Within 48 hours of Spillane's murder, and no one to stand in the way, Jimmy Coonan claimed power over all of Hell's Kitchen. All of their rackets, loan sharking, drug trafficking, union extortion, gambling, you name it, Jimmy was now the boss. But unlike the reputation Mickey Spillane held as the pragmatic, diplomatic gentleman gangster the Westies were known for and ruled with one thing: pure and brutal violence. Kidnappings, torture, murder, dismemberment. These were all commonplace for these guys. Jimmy ruled with fear and with violence, and during their reign, the rabid dogs of Hell's Kitchen were believed to have murdered between 60 and 100 people, oftentimes dismembering their bodies for easy disposal, and many times even saving the hands of their victims and freezing them for later use, where they could leave fingerprints at other locations, throwing the police off track in their investigations. In fact, this was the same tactic used in the murder of Ruby Stein. Back in February of 1977, just months before the Mickey Spillane hit, Jimmy Coonan and Jimmy Mac McElroy shot Stein, a prominent bookie and loan shark, in the head multiple times. Then chopped up the body and threw it in the river, rather than repay a loan of $60,000 that Coonan had owed him. Weeks later, Ruby's torso would wash up on the beach in Rockaway. Now, I do not know if this is true, but supposedly, Coonan then took over Ruby Stein's book. In other words, every debt that was once owned to Ruby was now owned by Jimmy. Another act that solidified Jimmy Coonan as the de facto head of Hell's Kitchen. Throughout the 70s, the Westies, a name they never used themselves, but was put on them by the media, gained more and more members and grew stronger as the years went by. Infamous men like Jimmy Mac McElroy, Richard Muggsy Ritter, William Indian Willie Bokum, Tony Lucic, Johnny Blonde Devaney, Eddie the Butcher Kaminsky, Bosco Radnick, the aforementioned Kenny Shannon, and Kevin Kelly, not to mention the infamous Mickey Featherstone. And for the added feminine touch, there was Coonan's wife Edna and Featherstone's wife Sissy, both of whom would act as ever-ready alibis as well as drug mules and or gun moms. So, let's talk Featherstone. Mickey was born on West 43rd Street. He was a blonde-haired, baby-faced Vietnam veteran who joined the Army at 17 and ended up serving in the 5th Special Forces Group as a supply specialist. Now, because of thievery and drunkenness, the Army found him to be a bit of a disciplinarian problem. He received an early discharge for medical reasons that I couldn't find, but I would guess were probably for mental illness. Now, after returning to Hell's Kitchen, he had a run-in with a couple of brothers from New Jersey in a local bar who roughed him up a bit. So he later returned to the bar with a rifle and shot one of the brothers, a John Riley, in the arm. He was subsequently arrested, but given probation. During another bar fight in 1971, he borrowed a pistol from Jimmy Coonan and then killed Linwood Willis outside of the bar. He was found not guilty on that one by reason of insanity. He then spent some time in a series of different mental hospitals all over the city. When he was home, he was a regular at pubs like the 596 Club and the Sunbright, which were all Westie hangouts. And by 1977, Featherstone, a loose associate of Coonan's, soon started hanging out with him on a regular basis. He began taking part in Jimmy's enforcement and some of the killings. And before you knew it, he was Jimmy's right hand. And eventually became second in command. In 1977, Featherstone was arrested for the murder of Mickey Spillane, which he also was acquitted for. In 1979, both Featherstone and Coonan went to trial for the murder of a barman, but were acquitted on that one, when one of the witnesses killed himself, and then the other witness refused to testify. All in all, it is believed that Mickey Featherstone committed at least 6 of the 60 to 100 murders committed by the gang, and possibly more for Roy DeMeo's crew, as these two gangs would often swap jobs in order to avoid police suspicion. In other words, the Westies would kill for DeMeo's crew would kill for the Westies. Also, they did this to gain favor with the Italian mafia families. Now, you have to remember, there's no way of knowing for sure how many people these gangs killed, because it was their job to keep them secret. 1981 saw the beginning of the end for the Westies. Mickey Featherstone, who was already a bit of a nut job, grew more unstable and very, very paranoid amid the life of drinking, drugging, and murder that he was now mixed up in. 1981 was arrested for the murder of Michael Holley and served 4 years before being exonerated for the crime in 1986. When it was discovered, he was most likely framed by Jimmy Coonan and Billy Bogan. Bogan, being the actual shooter in the Michael Holley case, disguised himself to look like Featherstone during the hit. Now, it's believed Coonan wanted Mickey out of the picture because he was opposed to Jimmy's growing alliance with the Italian mafia, which Featherstone saw as a threat to the neighborhood. Sissy Featherstone, Mickey's wife, was able to record incriminating recordings of Billy Bogan, which exonerated her husband. This betrayal proved all of his paranoia and conspiracy theories to be correct. And fearing for his life, Mickey Featherstone became a government informant in March of 1985, providing detailed testimony on dozens and dozens of murders and the rackets run by the gang, which brought several RICO indictments. RICO now, that's the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act, which built airtight cases against the gang. Featherstone's cooperation was pivotal, but other members like Billy Bogan, who had set him up, and Tony Lucic also went state's evidence once it all began to fall apart. And in November of 1986, Coonan and 7 other members were all indicted on federal racketeering charges, 21 murders, extortion, and drug trafficking. In 1988, Jimmy Coonan was convicted, sentenced to 75 years. Mickey Featherstone received a reduced sentence and later put into witness protection. After nearly, I want to say 2 years on the run, Kenny Shannon and Kevin Kelly were also snatched up. They were at first believed to have been murdered and or hiding in Ireland, but they ended up turning themselves into Rudy Giuliani's office on August 15th, 1988, after being featured on America's Most Wanted television show. Kevin Kelly received a 50-year sentence and Kenny Shannon an 18-year sentence for the multiple charges each faced in connection with the crimes they committed as Westies. The Gambino crime family, very wary of the Westies' volatility, distanced themselves from any members that were left standing. That combined with the murder of Paul Castellano by John Gotti in 1985, the whole Italian-Irish connection was pretty much in complete ruins at that stage of the game. And once it was all over, the then United States Attorney Rudy Giuliani stated that the trials exposed the Westies as the most savage organization in the long history of New York City gangs. And really, that was it. By the end of the 80s, the majority of the core members were either all in prison or all dead. Sure, there were some nefarious characters who still lurked under the neon-lit avenues and darkened doorways of Hell's Kitchen. But nothing ever came close to the violence and the fear that the Westies had bestowed onto their neighborhood. Now this has really just been a very, very abbreviated and brief overview of the Westies. If you have any interest in learning more, I suggest you pick up the book, The Westies, by T.J. English. It's a great read. It's loaded with all the names, dates, bad guys, detectives, prosecutors, etc., etc. Anything you would want to know. I highly recommend you check it out. And really, that's it. That's it, my friends. That's all I got for you on the Westies. Before we go, we have a couple of questions to get to from listeners who have written into questiontravistoday@gmail.com. And the first one is from Amy S., who writes in from Omaha, Nebraska. I have read all 6 of the Tommy Kane books. How many more are you and Natasha writing? Good question, Amy, and thank you for reading all of them so far. The answer is 10. I'm sorry, there will be 10 total, so 4 more. There will be some side books, kind of Tommy's World. Those are on the way, okay? But, so we'll say 10 plus, okay? Thanks so much for writing in to questiontravistoday@gmail.com. Now, the next one is from Carrie from Framingham, Massachusetts. It's another book question, and Carrie wants to know, how long does it take to write one of our novels? Well, I tell you, Carrie, the writing is actually a small part of it, believe it or not. I find the writing to be the easiest part, okay? And I tend to write the meat and the potatoes of the story on my own. I pass it on to my sister Natasha, who rewrites it, fixes it, shapes it up into a proper novel. Then we go back and forth a couple of times with some rewrites. Then it goes to editing. Then more rewrites. And then off to production. And all in all, with all the back and forth, it takes about a year or so to complete. So really, the writing of the book is just a couple to a few months, but it's the rest of the process that takes the most time. Thanks again, Carrie. Thank you so much for writing into questiontravistoday@gmail.com. And anybody can write in with anything you want. Now, that's it. That's all I got for you today, my friends. So until next week, please do the right thing. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and do us a big favor and tell everyone you know to give us a listen, wherever they listen to podcasts, and or check us out on the new super cool Another Nobody podcast channel on the YouTube. Until next time, all the best, my friends. I needed that. That was sitting there the whole time. I didn't have a sip. Hey, how you doing? Another nobody here, Travis Myers. This one's going out in particular to all my drinking friends out there, because I got a new favorite thing, and it's called Shanky's Whip, and it is magical. It's Irish whiskey mixed with a little caramel, a little cream, a little vanilla, and it's heavenly. What more can I say? I suggest you pick up a bottle. You can have it as a shot with a cold beer, like I like. On the rocks, it's great. Mix it with a little cola. I promise you, you're going to love this stuff. Next time you raise a glass, think of me, another nobody, Travis Myers. Hey, do the right thing. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of my nonsense. All the best, my friends. This is a 2024 American Eagle gold coin. which I bought along with several others last year. I'm very happy to report that its value has gone up over 40% in the first year. See, I was encouraged to buy some gold by a financial advisor friend who suggested I be more diversified with my investments. She said gold and silver was a very safe place to park some money, as well as a good hedge against inflation. So I took her advice, and all I can say is I wish I had bought more, as it's been so very, very good to us so far. Now, I purchased these gold coins from the good people over at stackingboise.com, who could not have been nicer, more knowledgeable, or more helpful. Now, I'm certainly no financial expert, but I will say from experience, if you're looking to make an investment, buy yourself some gold. And some real gold that you could hold in your hand, just like this coin you see here. And if you do, then do like I did, and get with the good folks over at stackingboise.com. I'm telling you, they're good people, they took good care of me, and they'll take good care of you. Again, that's stackingboise.com. And hey, tell them Travis sent you. Hey there, true crime fans. Let me introduce you today to the Cold Case Initiative. The Cold Case Initiative is a foundation that donates money to smaller police agencies all over the country. It does this in order to offset the costs of scientific, forensic, and DNA testing with the hope of solving cold case homicides and other horrific violent crimes that otherwise would remain unsolved. Please, if you have it in your heart and a little money to spare, go to www.coldcaseinitiative.org. Again, that's www.coldcaseinitiative.org, and lend a hand where it truly is needed. Be a part of solving a cold case. Every little bit helps. Know that 100% of the donations that go to the Cold Case Initiative go to agencies that are desperately in need of the help. So please, if you can, do the right thing and make a donation. Thanks, and all the best, my friends.